Zhuo Fan was reluctant at this time. He had not fully understood the first ones, which made him kneel again, and this dead old lady. But when he saw Chu Qingcheng's harsh eyes, Zhuo Fan couldn't help but lick his mouth and knelt down helplessly. Cow, Laozi is no Song Yu, just let Song Yu kneel to her, seemingly seeing the arrogance in his eyes. Aunt Tao and Chu Qingcheng looked at each other, and both smiled and shook their heads gently. Then, Aunt Tao began to talk about the ancestor training of Huayu building. And there are thousands of years of history, starting from the joint construction of 7 houses. At the beginning, Zhuo Fan was dissatisfied and he didn't want to listen to the stuff of Chen Selen Lanzi. But when talking about the last few hundred years, Zhuo Fan began to pay attention. It turned out that the relationship between Huayu Lao and Yao Wangdian turned out to be an alliance, and the two often married and got married, which was simply not good. And the colorful Yunluo of the Palace of Medicine King did not have such a strong power at first. However, it was gradually improved after Huayu Lao provided the Bodhi Jade liquid, and finally evolved into a unique martial art to deter the 7th family today. Later, because the couple of Yao Wangjian and Hua Yulu and their relatives had mixed their mouths, they fought. As a result, the husband wounded his wife with colorful Yunluo palm, and the wife returned to Huayu building in a rage. Originally Huayu Lao did not take it seriously. Healed her with Bodhi Jade liquid. But at that time, they suddenly found out that the Bodhi Jade liquid, which can detoxify and restore everything, was ineffective. At that moment, the upper level of the Huayu building realized the seriousness, and the poison of the Yaowang Palace was no longer controllable, so they cut off the supply of jade liquid to them. This time, it completely angered the Palace of Medicine King, and the two enemies from then on. Until nearly 100 years, the Palace of Medicine King began to harass Huayu Tower continuously. 7 or 8 landlords died under the colorful Yunluo palm. Even the 2 generations of main landlords died from this. Because the royal family needs the Medicine King Palace to enshrine the pill. So close one eye to the 2 grudges. Huayu Tower was even driven several times and was forced to destroy the building by the King of Medicine. But it has to be said that the mountains and rivers have no way to doubt, and Luanhoming is another village. In this century of Huayu Lao's most crisis, there was a strange woman, Chu Bijan, the living dead lying on this 1,000-year-old ice. She is not only powerful but also capable and tough. On the one hand, she resists the invasion of the Yaowang Palace without any difficulty. On the other hand, she expands her power by marrying with each family. Several losses and heavy losses. For the woman's wrist, all the 7 family admire. Everyone knows that without her, Huayu Lao would have finished. Even the Palace of Medicine King was very respectful to her. Therefore, outsiders called her the Iron Lady, and in the Huayu Tower, the disciples respected her as Grandma. Although she is not the main lord of Huayu, she assisted the 3 generations of main lords to maintain the Huayu building to this day. Unfortunately, this Iron Lady is also no match for conspiracy. Just 10 years ago, the 3 landlords of Huayu building were betrayed by their poisonous drug king, and they betrayed the family. They issued a fake letter of help and led Chu Bijan to rescue him. Under the serious injury, he hit the colorful Yunluo palm. But even so, she fled back with a stubborn hold. They used to think that this was done by the Palace of Medicine Kings, but now they understand that there is also Emperor's Gate. After Chu Bijan fled back, he was seriously injured and he was very toxic. But before she died, she made a very bold decision for ordinary people. That is to pass on the position of the main landlord of Huayu Tower to Chu Qingcheng, who was only 13 years old at that time, with the assistance of Blue and White and Peony. This decision made many landlords deeply dissatisfied. But because of the authority of Grandma, they can only bear it. So now, Chu Qingcheng can only trust the 2 landlords Blue and White and Peony. After that, everyone thought that her grandmother was dead, but she was actually hanged by Aunt Tao for the last breath, stored on this 1,000 years of Xuanbing, and became a living dead. At this point, the tragic history of Huayu building finally ended. Chu Qingcheng wiped tears from the corners of his eyes and looked at the grandmother on the ice bed, seeming to remember the past. Aunt Tao sighed slightly, looked at Zhuo Fan, and said seriously, boy, do you remember? Nodded slightly. Zhuo Fan said seriously, remember? Okay, you'll pass it on in the future. As long as someone remembers Huayu Building is not dead. Yang Tian laughed aloud, and Aunt Tao raised Zhuo Fan and put his hand to chew the jade hands of Allura tightly together. Not many days, you, take care with that. Aunt Tao slowly turned around and faced the stone wall again, as if thinking hard again. Zhuo Fan was puzzled and asked. But he was dragged by Chu Qingcheng to come to Grandma again, bowed again, and turned away from here without ever looking back. The stone gate made a loud bang and closed again. And a wave of volatility came out, and the stone gate was again hidden in the ban. Sister Chachu, what's going on? Zhuo Fan asked, his head puzzled. He really didn't understand that Chu Qingcheng took him a long way, did nothing, just listened to a long period of history. What does it mean? With a chuckle, Chu Qingcheng looked at Zhuo Fan. A rare tenderness flashed in his eyes. Remove the word sister, call me Chu Chu, or Qingcheng. Zhuo Fan couldn't help but touched his nose and blinked in confusion. Although he didn't know what Chachu meant, at this moment she looked at him, but let a strange feeling flow through him. Fool, with a low chuckle. Chu Qingcheng took Zhuo Fan's hand and continued to move forward. Now, you are already the person of our Huayu Tower. Next, I will take you to see my family.